Welcome to the tutorial video for the unit Undertake project work. My name is Tony Pan and I'm going to be taking you through the topics and the content of this unit. Well, what specifically is involved in this unit? Well, this particular unit has 4 outcomes. The 4 outcomes that you'll need to be able to demonstrate by the end of this unit are to be able to establish a project parameter or parameters, be able to develop a project plan, and there's a number of sub-plans within that, such as risk management plans and so forth, budgets. You need to be able to administer and monitor a project and finalize a project and review the project on its completion. So they're the 4 outcomes as determined by the unit of competency and the 4 that we're going to need to work through this unit. However, to cover those off, we've got a huge body of work that we need to sort of skim across for this unit. So the Diploma of Project Management on its own, for example, has 12 units of competency within it, and a lot of these topics are covered off individually by units. The context of this particular unit, the Undertake project work, is that you're not necessarily a project manager or you're not necessarily a senior project officer, but as a manager or a leader, you come across situations where project management competencies and skills would be really handy. And this is the role of this unit, is to be able to give you those fundamental project management skills and competencies, so that if you come across an enterprise in your role as a leader or manager that is a one-off and is not business as usual, and you want to come up with some effective ways of managing that, then you can refer back to some of the skills and competencies that you've developed in this unit to be able to manage that. So it's more about having an understanding and being able to use project management capabilities within the context of your regular leadership and management skill set. So we're not necessarily talking about building shopping centers or submarines necessarily, where it's more about, you know, if you've got a one-off events and you're trying to and of a magnitude that would normally be required for a manager or leader to manage, but not big enough that you would need a separate project manager to come in and manage. So, you know, if you're trying to get your head around what size projects are we talking about. So it's usually something that, you know, as a manager or leader, your boss would say, here, Tony, I think, you know, you could manage this, as opposed to, you know, a professional project manager coming in to manage the enterprise. So that's the context of the unit. So to be able to cover off some of those key project management fundamentals and skills that I talked about, we're going to need to address things like, first of all, clarifying some of the definition and some of the phases and stages and accountabilities of project management. We'll identify project stakeholders, the usual type of stakeholders, and what their priority and importance within projects are, the role that they play. We'll look at the different phases, and as part of that, we'll look at phases such as the initiating phase, which incorporates things like the project scope. And then from the scope, we'll start to look at the planning phase, which is about planning projects and using tools such as a work breakdown structure or the WBS, about determining time, so things like putting together schedules, determining resources, both physical resources and people, and determining costs, so things like budgets. And as I mentioned, we'll look at scheduling tools like Gantt charts. We'll look at risk management, so we'll look at the risk management framework, the risk context, different ways that we can assess it and treat it, and then how we put that into a risk register for our project, and how we're going to control and monitor our risks, and the planning and documentation that goes within that. So there's a big chunk there about risk management, which is critical to any part of planning. Then we'll focus on the project team themselves. So this is the human resource element component of it. We'll look at the importance of consultation, how to get them involved, and so forth. And we'll also think about things such as how we go about getting the right people for the role, and that's part of the execution phase of the project. So we'll talk a little bit about managing project teams, and I don't have to spend too much time in there because a fair bit of this gets covered off in other areas of of this diploma in leadership and management, things like performance management and feedback and so forth. Then towards the end of the unit, we'll look at things such as record keeping. What type of records do we need to keep? And why do we need to keep them? We'll look at things such as measuring the performance of the project and being able to monitor and report on its progress. And then finally, we'll look at the closing phase, which is about making sure we wrap everything up, making sure that we get the right reporting done, so things like closure reports, and fitting them into things like communication plans. And then last bit we'll look at is reviewing the project. So as I said, there's quite a bit to go through there. So I am going to share with you quite a bit of information. Hopefully it's all really important info. I know that generally speaking, the feedback that we get from this unit is quite positive because it gives people a good understanding. As managers, it gives you a good understanding of the project management methodology if you don't spend much time in that space. But also what it can do for you as a leader and a manager is that it can help you to understand when you're working with other project managers or other managers who focus on a project management aspect. So if you're a leader and manager and you've got people coming into your scope of responsibility that are project managers or project officers, this unit will give you a better understanding of what the bigger picture and how they're going about undertaking their work. So hopefully, though it's a big unit, it's a highly valuable unit for you.